Over the past week, our governments and banks have been releasing different plans to provide relief to Canadians who are financially impacted by the virus. Some of these plans are directly related to landlords and tenants. Unfortunately, a lot of people simply read the news headlines without actually understanding the details of the plans. Tenants are under the impression that landlords don't need to make mortgage payment for 6 months. So they think that they shouldn't need to pay rent either. Now, we are going through a very unusual time in history, and many unusual measures have been put in place. It is not really the best time for us to debate what is fair and what is unfair. You might hate some parts of the plan, but it is what it is. The best we can do is to understand the details and facts and try our best to work around them to smooth out the situation. So let's discuss the two biggest myths of the landlord and tenants relief plans. Myth number 1. Landlords don't need to make mortgage payments for 6 months. The news headlines are all saying 6 Canadian banks to allow deferral of mortgage payments by 6 months. Most tenants interpret this as my landlord doesn't need to pay for the mortgage for 6 months. So why should I pay for rent? What is the bank really said was, they have made commitments to work with their customers on a case-by-case basis to provide flexible solutions to manage financial challenges, which may include mortgage payment deferral for up to 6 months. Who would qualify? Would an investment property count? Would you need to prove that your tenants failed to pay rent? What exactly are the criteria? There are really no clear answers at this point. But there's one thing we know for certain. Even if you are allowed to defer your mortgage, they won't be interest-free. So there is definitely a price to pay on the landlord side.
Pat Foran explains on Consumer Alert. Pat.
That's right. And Nathan, if you're someone who lost your job, has no other money, and is at risk of losing your home, then the program could be for you. But many people will not qualify. And even if they do, all the interest you don't pay now, you'll pay later, along with added fees.
Myth number 2. Tenants don't need to pay rent. 2 days after the mortgage deferral news flooded the internet, Premier Doug Ford said, no one will be kicked out of their home or their rental apartments based on not being able to pay the rent. It is just not going to happen. We won't allow it to happen. The government is essentially shutting down the eviction department of the Landlord and Tenants Board. So, no eviction hearing can be held and no eviction orders can be issued. Unfortunately, this misled some tenants to believe that they are entitled to not paying rent and are going to take advantage of the situation. It is like they think that they would be entitled to robbery if the police station is closed.
If you have a job, then we expect you to pay rent. This is for the people that just can't afford it. So please, I heard there was a petition going around, just don't pay rent. That's wrong. That's hurting people across the board. We're standing up for the tenants here. So please don't take advantage of it. And if you can't pay rent and you're just in an absolute crisis, then you don't have to pay rent.
This situation can be tough for landlords. So as a landlord, is there anything you can do to make things better? Yes. Number 1, educate your tenant. You chose your tenants because you trusted them. I don't think they would be in a bad faith and try to take advantage of you during a crisis like this. If anything, I think they are misinformed and misled. Some tenants are stirred up by social media. They believe that it is unfair for them to pay rent because the landlords are just rich people trying to rip them off. They need to understand that the landlord have their obligations and bills to pay as well. So it is crucial for you to communicate the right information across to your tenant. You need to make sure they understand the two myths. Number 2, work with your tenant. If your tenant missed a rent payment, you should still issue the N4 the non-payment of rent notice. It serves as an official notice in case you need it for eviction down the road when the Landlord and Tenants Board reopens. But the thing is, it is more important for you to understand why your tenants missed the payment and work things out together. Let's say you are one of the lucky ones who is still financially stable during this crisis. Your tenant has always been a good tenant. She comes to you and says that her pay is suspended until her company reopens for business again. Would you be willing to use the rent deposit that you are holding on to as the rent for now? Would you be willing to work out a payment plan with her? In my own case, I agreed to a $0 rent increase for the next 12 months with my tenant. Of course, as a landlord, you are 100% entitled to receive your full rent payment and your rent increase as per guidelines. But at unusual times like this, I think we can all contribute a little bit to help each other out. Communication and understanding can totally dissolve a disaster. In situations like this, it is just that much more important for you to be our rental management program because we will take care of all the communications with the tenants for you. You see, these communications must be handled skillfully. If you don't do it right, the situation can be screwed up easily. You can go ahead and forward this video to your tenant. Click the link below if you want to find out more about our rental management program. I share my opinions and news on the real estate market every single week. If you want to stay on top of the market, make sure you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell now.